Good morning. Thank you for your time and attention. My name is Elizabeth Drysdale. I am the Secretary of CCDL, Connecticut Citizens Defense League, and I am really nervous. I am not good at this, so please bear with me.
You'll be fine.
Thank you. I'm a firearms instructor, and I have been for over 10 years. I started shooting at the age of 9, and I really enjoy the sport tremendously. I provided written testimony on House Bill 5043, and I just wanted to say that after the first speaker this morning, I really feel like quoting one of my favorite movies from 1978, Double Secret Probation, because you can't make something more illegal than it already is. That aside, I really wanted to talk to House Bill 5436. And what I don't understand is how wearable parts and components can be determined as a firearm. If you look at anything in a pile, be it a bolt of material and thread and buttons and zippers, there's no way you could call that clothing. If you look at the springs and gears and hands and face in a pile, there's no way that'll tell time. It's not a clock, it's not a watch. So to say that any part of a firearm that is a wearable piece, be it the barrel or the cylinder or the slide, that can be replaced because of wear and tear, how then is it an independent firearm? I really feel that the only way that those could cause injury or damage is if somebody were to hurl it at you. That's it. I just don't see the logic behind it, and a true bag of parts should not be considered a firearm, because one of the fun things about firearms and handguns in general is that you get to customize them to whatever your needs are, because my hands aren't the same size as, say, a 6'6" man, and you can customize the various different components to have it do what you want it to do, and they don't all come from the manufacturer the way that you want it to be in the end. So I would urge you to vote no on both of these bills. Everybody's going to talk to you about the governor's bill, 5043, but the other ones are just as detrimental, and they allow for an expense, a cost. I mean, they're not even addressing how you would replace the components. So do all the firearms that have the same serial number have to stay together? That's not discussed. If you switch it out, do you then have to re-register it somewhere? It's just logistically doesn't make sense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You did okay.
Thank you.
Question or comment from members of the committee? Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for coming in. You did fantastic.
Thank you. You're so kind.
Now,
you're all very kind. I appreciate it.
You seem like a reasonable person.
Rumors have it, yes.
Do you consider yourself a reasonable person?
I do, in fact.
Okay. And you have read this bill?
I have.
Okay. As a reasonable person, do you understand what would be required of reasonable people under this bill?
I do not. That's why logistically it doesn't make sense to me. Okay. I do not understand it. I'm not sure. You know, like I said, if you have a firearm and its components all with the same serial number, can you mix and match? And then what happens to the records? Who keeps those records? Do I keep those records? Do the FFLs keep those records? You know, and then what are the costs associated with it? And what do you do when a barrel is damaged or to the point that it can no longer be used? Right now, it goes into recycling. You know, or it gets remanufactured into a different style, depending on the caliber.
Well, I guess my question is from the standpoint of a reasonable person. If you have a firearm in your hand, you have one firearm. If
Correct.
You now take it apart to clean it, do you now have 4 firearms?
That's what it seems like, which doesn't make sense to me, because it's still, they can't operate alone.
what is the process now of acquiring a firearm in Connecticut? Are you familiar with that?
I am. I bought a few. In fact, I bought a Glock.
Okay.
Since that's the hot topic of the day. But mine is really cool. It's got the American flag on it, so it's really pretty.
Okay. So it involved going to an FFL?
I went to an FFL in Southington. I saw it there. I filled out lots of paperwork for the state. I filled out lots of paperwork for the federal government, and I had to present my permit.
They did a background check on you?
They do a background check through the state system, so the FFL had to call and make sure that, yes, I was who I am, and yes, I am as legitimate as I purport to be. And once that all came back, I paid my money. Not only did I have to provide my permit, I had to provide a second form of identification to verify that my permit with my picture that looks like me was in fact me. So 2 forms of identification. And then, yeah.
And are you familiar with any delays that sometimes happen with regard to
Sure.
permitting?
People with common names, I mean, my name is less common than some, but people with common names, common first names, common last names, do run into problems. You know, you've got a Sean McDonald, everybody knows a Sean McDonald, or a John Smith. You know, so oftentimes it takes several days for those particular individuals to clear up, that's not really me, this is the me, which of the 7 names that are all the same on the list is really you. So yes, it can delay.
Okay, so if you've got a broken part on your firearm, for example, under this bill, you would need to go through that entire process?
Absolutely. You would have to go through that entire process. I can't even fathom what gunsmiths are going to have to go through, because they keep those elements in stock so that when you're, I'm not a gunsmith, I'm never going to machine my own barrel, but I would go to the professional, and that professional would then say, oh, I have this in inventory, give me a couple of days, I'll fix it for you. And then with this proposed new idea that a barrel is a firearm, I don't know that all smiths are FFLs to do the buying and selling. So it triggers a lot more than just how many pieces are a firearm, but what does that do on the federal level to the Connecticut import-export, if you will, or the A&D book for FFLs? Are they suddenly now in inventory 4 times as many because they can carry components? I mean, this is just, it's like it was written by somebody that doesn't understand firearms.
You're not an FFL?
I am not.
Okay. I'll save my question for when an FFL
I know
comes
they're
up.
coming up.
I'm sure they are. Well, I thank you very much for your responses, and thank you for coming in and testifying.
Thank you. And
Appreciate
thank you
it.
for making it easy for me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. It should, don't, just want to check first, but question or comment from other members of the committee. Representative Veach, and I remembered today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say hello to Elizabeth and thank you for advocating for such a worthwhile 2A.
Oh, you're very kind to say that. Thank you.
And you did a great job.
Oh, you're so, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. You did. Question or comment from other members of the committee? Question or comment, and we do try to make it possible for folks to come and testify, whatever side of the issue they're on. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank
this
you.
afternoon.
I appreciate your kindness.
Have a great day.
Good morning. Respected Chairman and members of the Judiciary Committee, my name is Holly Sullivan, and I am very proud to be here today as president of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League. We represent real Connecticut gun owners and voters. We did not travel in from out of state, nor are we funded by any special interest lobby. We are entirely volunteer and as grassroots as it gets. We have members in virtually every town in Connecticut. Gun owners possess and handle firearms regularly and are indisputably immersed in real-world gun safety. Proponents of HB 5043 testified this morning that we have a problem here in Connecticut with converted pistols and that this bill gets to the root of the problem. But we must be clear that the individuals who violate current federal and state law are the root of the problem, full stop. Every Town for Gun Safety, the joint authors of much of this bill, testified earlier that their focus is getting to the manufacturers. We heard several times that this is about the industry. However, it isn't. It's about my members. It's about me and my family. The good chairman underscored earlier that perception matters, and I wholeheartedly agree. I have been doing this a long time, and when I first heard the term convertible pistol, I must admit that I had some questions. Watching information provided to the local media recently has been deeply concerning. The perception in media that there is a new scary type of firearm does the people of Connecticut a grave disservice. These firearms have been safely owned for decades and present no new dangers or risks. In fact, as a child in the 1980s, I grew up around Glocks. It never morphed into anything else, and I am very concerned that the public is not being given a realistic understanding of what these guns do and do not do. Every town states that HB 5043 does not impact those who currently own it, and that is factually incorrect. This bill, as written, affects me. I am a Glock owner. When I was in my first apartment as a young woman out of college, my father transferred one of his firearms to me, and I, too, am a mom. My daughter, who grew up in the halls of this building, will be a teenager this year and a young woman shortly after that. My Glock is a gun that I've relied on for self-defense, and being unable to pass that down to her is unacceptable. Glocks are also very commonly used in competition shooting, such as IDPA, of which many competitions cross state lines. This morning I heard it's not a ban, it's a sale prohibition. We've heard that this is the next logical step. We've been down this road in Connecticut before, and we know this game. These firearms are ubiquitous. These firearms are in common use. These firearms are used for the purpose of self-defense. These firearms are used for lawful purposes. These firearms are not particularly dangerous, and they are most certainly not unusual. These facts are not in question. And for the last 15 plus years, we've been told the Connecticut and the anti-Second Amendment lobby just want common sense solutions. Well, HB 5043 is indisputably not common sense, not even remotely. Conversion to automatic fire is already illegal. This bill is once again a de facto ownership ban for the real people of our state. Hearing today that it isn't the intent calls into question for me the anti-Second Amendment lobby's fundamental understanding of gun ownership. I urge you to reject these bills, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? Representative Fishman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've obviously done this before, and you got in before the bell, and I appreciate that. Do you recall why you first purchased a Glock? Was there a reason?
You want my real reason is that it was really pretty. My Glock is teal, and it has really beautiful Western stippling on it. I found it in a gun store in Waterbury, and I said I have to own that because there's that kind of a trend in the firearms industry, teal for 2A. It's a women's thing, and seeing a teal Glock, that was my what made me buy it. But then I've come to love it. It is a little bit different, and I want to pass that down to my daughter.
Well, I appreciate that. For me, just because it's a comment or question. I think they're ugly.
Okay.
I think they're very boxy.
Not mine.
Well, they're very boxy. I hadn't owned one for many, many years, and then I went to an event and I shot a bunch of handguns, and damn, that gun was smooth, right? And I hit the target every time. It was clay pigeons up on a wire fence, right? And I hit each one of those, but every other gun I couldn't hit anything.
Yeah.
So I went and bought and I still think it's ugly, but it's functional.
But accuracy is safety.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as I said before, I own at least 2 of these, and I appreciate you coming here and sharing your story. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Howard.
First and foremost, Holly, thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you to your organization. As you said, you're all volunteers. You work tirelessly to try to fight back against what previous speakers have talked about. So I say that with great sincerity on behalf of hundreds of thousands of people, including many in my district, that appreciate the work that you do that make it frustrating at times. To the last exchange, I'll share with you my youngest son. He had a Glock 43 that he would shoot when we would go shooting, and he insisted he wanted a Kimber. So we bought the Kimber, and he put 2 rounds to it and said, I hate this thing, I want my Glock back, all right, because he's got smaller hands, he's a smaller guy. You know that you have a constitutional right in Connecticut to possess a firearm for self-defense, right? You're familiar with that.
Indeed.
Nothing about regulated militias in the Connecticut Constitution. It's simply about self-defense. Yeah. Is your opposition to this bill, well, let me ask you, I'll put you on the spot, I'm sorry. Is CCDL opposed to outlawing Glock switches and converting pistols to machine guns?
I think we have to be very careful about what any language comes before us. Being quite honest, being around this building for as long as we have been, I'd be very cautious to put our name on banning anything without seeing language,
Okay.
because it's a very slippery slope.
All right, fair enough. But CCDL certainly doesn't want fully automatic handguns on the streets in Connecticut. Is that fair?
It's already an illegal,
Right.
it's illegal to convert them. It's illegal to possess a fully automatic firearm without it being approved by the ATF. So we represent law-abiding gun owners.
Would you and CCDL be less offended by this bill if the convertible pistol language was removed?
I would certainly be less offended by it. Again, I'm wary, and I think that's with good reason. In this building, we see bills that come out that are longer than I can possibly imagine. If there was a bill that simply said that Glock switches are illegal, I think there's a conversation to be had. However, I'm dubious because as we've seen, particularly when we went through 5436, look at how much language is in there that realistically doesn't make sense. And largely it doesn't make sense to the average gun owner because it impacts the average gun owner in a way that I don't think the anti-Second Amendment lobby understands at all.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further questions or comments? Further questions or comments? Representative Beach?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Holly, I just wanted to say thank you for coming up today. And I, too, have 3 daughters, actually, and every one of them carries a Glock. They feel comfortable with it in their hands. It's very accurate, and in my opinion, very safe for them to have and to carry and to protect themselves. And again, thank you for coming up again today.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? If not, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, and happy birthday, Senator Winfield.
Alfred,
My name is Don Basil. I reside in Oakville, Connecticut. And I've submitted my testimony to you all, so rather than read it, I've been here all day and I've taken some notes on things that people prior to me have said that I take some difference with. I'd like to address those first. It's been reported today by people that are proclaimed experts that machine guns are prohibited. That's not the whole truth. The reality is that there are many private individuals that legally own machine guns, and since the NFA of 1934, it's a 90-plus year law. To the best of my knowledge, no privately possessed machine guns have ever been used in the commission of a crime. There are people that legally possess Glocks with Glock switches installed in them. By federal law, it is the switch that is considered the machine gun device. The Glock pistol in and of itself is not considered the machine gun. Another person from Everytown this morning said that this bill would only affect, quote unquote, a small subset of the guns that are on the market. Glocks and Glock-style pistols have absolutely dominated and monopolized the marketplace, and they are without question in common use by the public. FRTs, force reset triggers, are not machine guns. Sears and switches are. A company was accused of selling 80% receivers solely to people that are prohibited from otherwise having a firearm. That is untrue as well. I personally know many, many people that have built their own firearms from an 80% receiver. I do not associate myself with any felons at all. I'm a firearms instructor. I've been one for 35 years. I always ask my students at the onset of every class, what is the primary reason why you're here? What is the number one reason why you seek to possess a firearm? 95% of the time, it is for defensive use, defensive purpose. I always tell my students or advise my students that when you're choosing your defensive weapon, that reliability and dependability are the most paramount criteria there is. It could be the nicest looking firearm, it could be the most accurate firearm, but it needs, if it goes, thank you for your time.
You can summarize.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that, and I'll be brief. But it must be dependable, it must be reliable. Glocks have proven themselves for decades now to be among the most reliable platforms ever created. Glocks have been exposed to every adverse condition on Earth. Okay, I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the additional time.
You're welcome, and I apologize for mispronouncing your name, but don't run away just yet.
Okay.
Dom
Basil.
Basil,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry about that.
No apology necessary.
Senator Kissel has a question for you.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir.
Oh, it's more of a statement and a friendly hello. Dominic Basil, it's been a few years since I was with you last out in Summers at that group of like-minded gun enthusiasts and Second Amendment folks. First of all, whenever I see you, I think of my late brother, Michael, and just you've been such a tremendous friend to our family and an advocate on behalf of folks who believe in the Second Amendment. Every year, we have a gun day here in this committee, and they're chipping away, and I don't feel upset with the advocates. They feel passionately. The vast majority aren't gun enthusiasts. They're not particularly adroit at the nuances of Second Amendment laws. But do you feel that above and beyond what you stated, the fundamentals, that laws such as this would have a slippery slope or a camel's nose under the tent effect by really trying to make Connecticut a very difficult state to sell lawful arms? And I don't look to California as a role model to follow on pretty much anything. People are leaving California in droves for a variety of reasons. And we can go down that path. But, you know, should Connecticut go down this path, will it, in your humble opinion, reduce crime, or will it just make it a more difficult state for law-abiding citizens to possess arms?
Well, thank you for the question, Senator. It is always a genuine honor to see you. And your brother Michael was a dear friend of mine, and I miss him. Yes, there's an old saying, as goes California, so goes Connecticut. And I've seen that for my 30-plus years being involved on the legislation that's going on under this gold dome. And in 30 years, all of that gun control legislation has been an abysmal failure. Our state is not safer, it's worse. We're on a worse footing than we've ever been before. I don't understand the logic of this legislation. And this is the way it was explained to me by someone else, so I can't take credit for it. A minor puts vodka in a glass of orange juice. That minor is now a prohibited person because of their age, and they are in possession of an alcoholic drink, okay? It is already illegal for that prohibited person to purchase, possess, and install that vodka. This legislation's solution to that is to ban orange juice. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. So, no, I don't think we're on a good footing at all, and I think we're going down the wrong path.
Oh, thank you. And Dominic, I think it's as simple as that. We chip away in our state, unfortunately. And I know I'm standing on a soapbox a little bit. And I am more than open to hearing a cogent argument how this is going to reduce crime or violence in our state. But I just don't see it. And actually, you know, I think the folks that are gun control advocates, you know, I've asked this over the years. We're probably second or third toughest state in the nation when it comes to gun laws. And not even like California, but like right up there with Illinois or New Jersey. So it's not like we're lagging behind. We're like way at the top of a state where the Second Amendment is like boxed in by so many rules, regulations, and controls. And again, I agree with Senator Ciccarella that when we had that portion of a bill a couple of years ago that said if you have gun violence and you've been into court more than a couple of times, then the judge can add to your sentence. That's the thing that got to the perpetrators of the crime, that reduced crime in our cities primarily, but throughout the state of Connecticut. And I actually, after that law was passed, talked to the head of the criminal side of the judicial branch, and he agreed. So there are things that we can do to reduce crime, but unfortunately, people that constantly want to reduce access to guns and people's Second Amendment constitutional right to bear arms, it doesn't often reduce crime at all. And so maybe it's virtue signaling, maybe it feels good, you feel like you're doing something, but these devices that get put on these Glock guns are already against federal law. It's already a crime to have those, even if they're not connected to the guns. So I don't know. I appreciate you taking the time and effort. I thought your name was called a couple of days ago too, but I didn't see you in the audience. Maybe it got signed up on a wrong, different bill. But it's always a pleasure having you come here. We both share, I think it's been about 8 years since we lost Michael, but your dedication to making this state a better state is not lost on me, and thank you for taking the time to testify. And thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Howard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you. Thanks for that orange juice analogy. I hope it's okay if I use it as well, because I think it's amazing. You seem to have technical knowledge about firearms. Do you? You have technical knowledge about firearms, pistols, and specifically. So
I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I'll happily answer to the geek. I'm a geek.
Okay, all right. You can call yourself that. If my father's watching and hears me call somebody older than me a geek, it'll be a rough visit there next time. But you hear earlier conversations with myself and other folks about if we pass this legislation today specific to these pistols that are referenced in the bill, that by next year we're going to have to add a bunch more pistols because the people who want to make these illegal guns are just going to find ways to do that. Do you think that that's true?
Human nature dictates absolutely it's true. If people have a strong enough desire, I mean, you can't pass legislation to uninvent something. The technology is there, the prints are there, the knowledge is there, and they'll just, right now it's the Glock, because I assume from conversations today that that design is the path of least resistance. If you take that away, well, what's the next one? And what's the next one? And again, if I could be frank, the reality of it is semi-automatic firearms in general are most of the way there. They're automatic. They do the function, most of the function automatically. The difference between a semi-auto and a full auto is very slight. A semi-auto, you pull the trigger, it goes bang, it will automatically eject and feed a fresh round in, making the gun ready to fire again if you want it to. A fully automatic will do the same cycle and then automatically fire the gun again and again and again and just repeat that process. A full auto will stop only if you let off the trigger, it runs out of ammo, or there's a malfunction. And that's the only thing that'll really stop it.
So thanks for that differentiation. So let me build upon that. So am I correct in hearing from you that realistically the difference between a semi-automatic and a full automatic is essentially the reset of the trigger mechanism and the firing pin, right?
Right, to drop that firing pin and to let it go forward while the trigger is still in the rearward position and has not come forward to reset again, and so you can squeeze it again. That is correct.
So do you think, with that in mind, that all semi-automatic pistols generally function enough in the same way through their cycle that you can create a switch, and it may not be as easy today as it is for Glocks for everything else, but essentially you could create a switch to bypass that for any semi-automatic pistol?
Probably, yeah. I'd be hesitant to say any, but by and large, I would say yes.
Okay, and probably in 1981, somebody would have said you couldn't do it for a Glock until somebody did it, right?
Yeah, I mean, Glock did it for a Glock. I mean, the first Glock was the Glock 17, and that hit the market in the 80s. And then the next Glock was the Glock 18, and that was a full auto Glock. So it's been there for decades. I shot full auto Glocks with with switches on them. I shot them like at machine gun shoots 10, 12, 15 years ago. They've been around for a long, long time.
Right.
Yeah.
So is Senator Winfield. Thank you,
I can't
Madam
even
Chair.
wish him happy birthday.
It's his birthday, too.
That I already did that to him personally. It's fine.
Thank you, Representative. Are there further comments or questions from members of the committee? Representative Jubitsky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Dom, for coming in. So you're a firearms instructor,
Yes, sir.
and you said that most of your students are there to learn about firearms for self-protection?
Oh, mass majority, I well in the 90 percentile. If I can add to that. I've also, because I've been doing it for such a long time, I used to have hair when I started. Because I've been doing it for such a long time, I've seen the mindset change a little bit. Students used to come to me and always say, I always meant to do this, I always wanted to do this. And since COVID, I think that was the pivot point. I'm getting a lot of students that are saying, I never thought I'd be doing this, or I never thought I'd have to do this. Again, we're living in a more dangerous world. Crime is up. Connecticut's a much less safe place to be in.
Okay. And what percentage do you think approximately of your students that are there to learn how to use a firearm for self-protection, what percentage of them use Glocks?
A Tupperware striker-fired 9mm is the mass majority. The mass majority. What percentage? Great question. Let me think about that for a second. I'm going to say 60, 65%.
60 to 65%
Yeah.
of the 95% that are there for
Yes. Use a
self-defense.
Glock or a Glock style pistol. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Are there further questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you again for your time and your testimony.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day.
Next.
Thank you and good afternoon, Madam Chairman and honorable members of this committee. My name is Bryant Mercado, and I am the membership coordinator of CCDL, and I am opposed to HB 5436 and HB 5043. I won't belabor the committee with the points previously made regarding HB 5436. I would like to instead raise a different concern regarding the collateral consequences from this bill. Subsection 19 of Section 53A-3 is widely referenced throughout the Connecticut general statutes. Some speakers have alluded to specific potential consequences, such as the illegality of storage of firearm parts in a vehicle without a complete understanding of these consequences, potentially in the form of a report from LCO. It's potentially dangerous to vote on this bill in its current form. In regards to HB 5043, this is not the targeted bill that its proponents claim it is. According to data from the ATF, Glock produced 345,119 pistols in 2023 alone. This bill is anything but targeted. This bill is gun control with a switch. Prior testimony focused on what proponents of this bill call preventing the upstream flow of commonly owned firearms from manufacturers to federally licensed firearms dealers. Connecticut already has a dam to prevent the flow of illegal firearms in the form of an onerous pistol permit application process. The only people who can currently buy a handgun legally in the state of Connecticut, including the handguns specified in this bill, are those that are pistol permit holders. The incidents cited by Mr. Lickenbrock do not feature legal Connecticut gun owners. The first incident out of Meriden that Mr. Lickenbrock cites to featured a convicted felon who would not be eligible for a pistol permit in Connecticut. The second in West Hartford had an active warrant, and he was also charged with violating a protective order. Lastly, the third one who was charged federally, was also a convicted felon and therefore ineligible to obtain a pistol permit in the state of Connecticut. The people committing crimes and possessing converted handguns obtain them and will continue to obtain them illegally, regardless of whether or not lawful gun owners are allowed to obtain them in this state. Earlier today, there was a great deal of discussion about the illegality of conversion devices themselves and that this law was duplicitous. But this conversation here, this is about the people who are buying them themselves, that they are already committing an illegal act when they go to possess a pistol. To conclude, HB 5043 will prevent lawful gun owners from owning the most common handguns in the U.S. It will not prevent violent crime. For these reasons, I urge you to oppose these bills. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and your testimony. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee? Senator Kissel.
Thank you very much, Chairman Flexer. I just want to commend the CCDL. Your organization, I've been lucky enough to be in the legislature as a state senator for several decades now, and the vast majority on this committee in various capacities. And since you guys have really mobilized and come on the scene, at least there's a counterweight to what I feel in this state is a really unfounded disdain for people's Second Amendment rights. And you have to do the legwork, and you guys are. And again, I don't begrudge people's fear of crime and the feel that, and their belief that it's the guns are at the root of it all and anything that we can do to stop guns. I get it. I get that feeling, but it's not really based on the nuanced facts that are really what's at work here. When you say that the guns that are involved in these crimes are not owned by law-abiding gun owners, you're exactly right. So we're talking about a group of individuals that are already outside the law. And we want to now superimpose on that group another law, which will not affect them because they're already not obeying the law. It will have a vast chilling effect on lawful gun sellers selling their wares in Connecticut. It's a thinly veiled attempt to get to the manufacturer of a product that is protected both federally and constitutionally. And that's the world that I live in here in Connecticut. And so I really want to thank you and your membership, because if we didn't have you out there doing the hard work, testifying, listening to the testimony, saying, yeah, I hear where they're coming from, but they're not articulating the concrete facts, then, you know, if the legislature, the majority, whomever wants to back these bills, the governor, want to go in that direction, as long as they know it's not based on fact, but it's just based on emotion, I can't stop them. There's only so many votes in the other direction. But at least the greater public, the people that watch on CTN, the people that actually live in certain dangerous areas of our state can say, you know, that all sounds good every year, because what's the deal with proposals that we have on an annual basis? Let's beat up on guns annually. If it has no impact on crime, then what are you doing? And if this is all about getting control of crime, let's pass some laws that go to the criminals as opposed to the lawful instrumentalities that they are using. And ultimately, it's only the law-abiding gun owners that have to pay the consequences. And as you so artfully pointed out, it is really, really hard in Connecticut to lawfully have a handgun. It just is. And, you know, for those of you folks out there that don't like guns, you should feel great, because we're like one of 3 states where it's super hard. We have the toughest gun laws in the country. But where does it end? I guess this is just an annual event that we're going to do forever. And that's sad. I just think it's sad. We could put our efforts in a direction that actually would have the consequence of making our state safer. And we're wasting our time trying to chase after manufacturers under the guise of solving crime. So thank you to you, and thank you to your membership. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for your compliment, Senator Kissel. We're always happy to provide that counterweight, and I think that speaks to your concerns. Speak exactly to what 2 people testified to earlier today, a gun instructor from Hartford, and then the owner of Tobacco Valley Gun, that we already have these hurdles on people. They're particularly onerous for underrepresented minority groups in the gun owning space. And so when we stack those hurdles, and then we're going to take away very commonly owned firearms from very safe and reliable name brands that even non-gun owners can recognize, when these people are trying to express their Second Amendment rights in an environment of rising hate crime, then how are they going to do that effectively? We're just stacking layers and layers on top of that.
Thank you, Senator. Are there further questions or comments from members of the committee? Representative Howard.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. So you seem pretty well versed in the gun laws in Connecticut. Do you feel that's appropriate? That's fair?
A little bit, yes, sir.
So the testimony you referenced earlier, it seemed to be represented that by those individuals that even if this legislation were to pass, that it's FFLs that can't sell, right? But private people can sell to one another. Is your understanding of the Connecticut law that I can sell you a pistol without an FFL being involved?
So, as the law currently stands, you have to do a transfer through an FFL in Connecticut.
So if this law were to pass, and I wanted to sell you my Glock that I currently own, do you think I'd be able to do that?
I would have to revisit the text of the bill itself, but from my understanding, I'm not sure if even individuals would be able to hold out for sale these firearms, regardless of whether or not they use an FFL as an intermediary, and whether or not using an FFL as an intermediary to facilitate a transfer would be a distinction separate from, say, an FFL buying a Glock from a wholesaler or the manufacturer directly and then selling it to an individual. But I would have to revisit the text of the statute to be sure about that answer. I can follow up with you later if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I was just curious your interpretation of it, because I had the same concerns you did. I actually, as you may have heard me say if you were here, I have concerns over whether or not I can even leave these for my kids. So, all right, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chair? Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry I missed that.
Did a great job, Nick.
Thank you. Further question or comment from members of the committee? Further question or comment? If not, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for your time, and happy birthday, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Brandon?
Good evening. Good evening, Representative Veach, Representative Dubitsky, Representative Fishbein, Senator Kissel, Representative Staffstrom, and Representative Blumenthal. I'm Dr. Walt Cupson, the Outreach Coordinator for Connecticut Citizens Defense League, and obviously I'm here to testify in opposition to both HB 5043 and 5436. I would ask the Governor and the Attorney General and all the members not only of this judiciary but of the entire legislative body to consider our forefathers. Our forefathers believed in English common law and the rights of all Englishmen, including the right of self-defense and self-preservation from the evils of both men and government. A wonderful idea from the Enlightenment, I think. When that oppressive government from the mother country intended to gain control over a populace, one of the actions taken was to seize their personal arms, powder, and ball. These were in common use, neither dangerous nor unusual. And as many, many speakers before me have clearly pointed out, handguns, in particular Glocks and Glock clones, really all firearms, including AR-15s, are in common use. Common use, disarmament, oppressive government. The British Crown went about this with seizure. Modernity has employed an incrementalism which has long since crossed over into the absurd. And I think we can all agree on that. We argue about hunks of metal. And that absurdity has become blindly partisan, just as John Adams had feared. He had said, "There is nothing which I dread so much as a division of the Republic into two great parties, each arranged under its leader, and concerting measures in opposition to each other. This, in my humble apprehension, is to be dreaded as the greatest political evil under our Constitution." That is all that HB 5043 is about, and 5436. Disarmament on a scale that even rivals Connecticut's ban on so-called assault weapons. And certainly 5436 is disarmament via deconstructionalism. I won't repeat the things that everybody testifies with year after year. I think it was last year or the year before I pointed out to Senator Winfield, we come here year after year saying the exact same thing, arguing over the same details. So I'm not going to go over that. You have heard us legal gun owners say this year after year after year. Are you listening? Our forefathers are listening. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the committee? If not, thanks for being with us. Thanks for sticking with us. Tim.
Good afternoon, I guess maybe evening now. Chairs, staff's room, members of this esteemed committee, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm Tom Maloney from North Stonington, and I oppose HB 5043 and HB 5436. I do have a number of real-world examples of how the language of 5436 could have so many unintended consequences, but I don't want to dive down into that. Based on, my testimony, you have my written testimony. What I'm going to speak now is really to what I've heard a lot this afternoon. The Giffords rep, CAGV, and every town all stated that the only way to solve this clock switch problem is to reduce access to the components. And yet there's no mention of reducing availability of the switch. They're illegal, but there doesn't seem to be any targeting of the switch itself, nor, and more importantly, and we've heard this point made over and over, making it more risky to actually commit that act of turning that legal gun into a fully automatic. It is legal. We see these gun crimes dropped at a rate of like 70% where they're not prosecuted. And yet there's not a mention from the anti-gun groups to try and work on the downstream side of the people actually committing these crimes. It's all focusing on that orange juice, as we heard. We've heard that there's no Connecticut Police Department supporting these bills, and we know why, because it doesn't actually stop criminals. In the past, in this very room, we've heard police chiefs testify in previous gun bills that the overwhelming majority of crime in their cities is caused by a very small number of actors. They know who they are, they know those areas, and yet we don't seem to be able to target that. We look elsewhere to the thousands of legal Glock owners. All day we kept hearing that support for these bills, or from those who support these bills, that they don't affect gun owners. And talk about being a little frustrated. I'm a little frustrated about hearing another group tell me whether it impacts me and fellow gun owners. It does impact us. We understand why. We live this stuff. And it's frustrating to have to constantly try and toe the line on these ambiguous laws. We heard over and over that the language says one thing, but those supporting it are saying, no, that's not what it really means. It's not intended for gun owners, not intended to impact you. I know down the road, if I get jammed up legally, I'm not going to be able to say, well, somebody in a public hearing said I could do this. What the law says, the language of the law is important, and I commend Representative Fishbein for drilling down into that, because that language is what concerns many of us. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Let me just correct one small thing that you said. You said no police departments had submitted testimony on the bill. I just want to be clear for the record, there is testimony submitted both by the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association as well as by DESP in support of the legislation. So
okay. So I stand corrected on that point. I haven't heard any today, though.
Yep. Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't going to say anything, but, I'm looking at what represents to be a document of testimony from the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association. I'm going to be texting the president of the group very shortly to ask about the legitimacy of the document, but the document ends with the sentence, CPCA is supportive of the increase in penalties. Can you tell me, sir, does the legislation, in particular 5043, address any increase in penalties?
I did not see that. There's probably others better versed with having read that language, but to me, as an average gun owner, I did not see any of that, what we heard downstream actors.
Yes, so
Only the manufacturers and sales.
Certainly, I recognize there is no increase in penalties in 5043.
Okay,
So I question who wrote this, whether or not they even saw the bill.
Right.
But clearly, there is no increase in penalties. I'm all for increase in penalties. Please, bring me increase in penalties,
Full
right?
support.
And I'll support it, and Chiefs of Police Association can support it, but that's not what this bill says. So, thank you, sir, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further questions, Representative Howard?
Thank you. Hi, Tom. Thanks for being here. First thing this morning, first guy at the door, being here all day. I appreciate it. What's that?
Go Bears.
Go Bears. That's it, man. Thanks for coming from North Stonington. You know, some of these guys don't appreciate the ride we have to get here, right? You mentioned
I
that.
just commended the guy from Bridgeport. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just as far. Come on.
Fair enough.
I know that ride.
Is that New York or?
Pretty close.
Tom, thank you. But I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming here every year. You're a great advocate. You know, you mentioned that. I think you surmised to the fact that you're not in favor of Glock switches. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And you sort of said that the legislation doesn't do anything to really address the real problem to either stop the manufacture of Glock switches or disincentivize people. What are your suggestions to the committee of things, you know, conceptually, not language, not lawyer language, just conceptually, what sort of things are you as a gun owner who's been frustrated, as you said, looking for in legislation to actually address this real problem that we both agree that we don't want fully automatic pistols on the street? What suggestions would you have?
So the old saying, you get the behavior you tolerate. And we tolerate, we see people arrested over and over for gun crimes. And, you know, they drop the charges, they release them. Well, somebody that you caught carrying handguns illegally is demonstrating a trend. You know, they're going to go out and do it again. Obviously, you know this. And it's only a matter of time before the right situation turns into a tragedy. So I don't understand why we don't disincentivize that behavior where someone going out the door at night says, I could carry a gun, but the risk became a lot higher. Maybe I shouldn't.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments of this witness? If not, thanks
All right.
for sticking
I
with us.
didn't get a chance to wish the good senator happy birthday.
You
I feel
know,
like
he tried to stick it out as long as he could, but come 5 o'clock, I told him he had to go have dinner with his family. I kicked him out.
I feel
so.
like we've wished him happy birthday in previous hearings too.
We did. It seems to come around this time every year.
Hello. Yep, Silvana Apicella. Thank you for having me, and you guys are almost done because I'm number 76. I live in a city. First of all, I'm here in opposition to HB 5043 and HB 5436. I live in a city with approximately 55,000 residents. We have 9 officers on all shifts. So in a time of an emergency, it could take 5 to 20 minutes for an officer to respond. So I am my own first responder. I feel that this bill is hindering my ability to protect my home and my family. I'm a single mom. I have a household filled with, I'm a great aunt too, so I have 2 babies that live with me. I'm a guardian to my 17-year-old niece. I have my son who lives with me still. He's 22 and he's also a permit holder and he loves Glock. He has about 3 or 4 of them. I'm also really surprised that today people didn't bring up the fact of the state of the world. Like we're literally at war and you guys are trying to you want to ban a very popular pistol for home protection, self-protection. And we're at war. I don't think that this is the best time to be trying to remove these things from our homes. My mom was born in Italy and during World War II, her house was bombed and they had to ride to safety. My grandmother would smuggle food to to help. That's not happening here. And I think that that's why people aren't really scared or nervous about war, but I'd rather be prepared. And the fact that you guys are trying to ban these pistols it's not great. It makes me very nervous. And HB 5046, it impacts hobbyists as well as gun owners. A barrel is not a weapon. Having FFLs having to come up with more money, people having to pay more. It's just another tax. We certainly don't need another tax here in Connecticut. We need to punish criminals. We need to be tougher on crime. That's what needs to happen. They, people always say, "Oh, they're not coming for your guns. They're not coming from your guns for your guns," but you guys, it's happening right now. It's happening right now. And it's going to start with this one, the Glock. Next, it's going to be Walter. It's going to be Ruger. Anything that can be changed. So thank you.
Thank you. Representative Fishbein?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Silvana. Thank you for coming and expressing your story with regard to these handguns. Listening to your testimony as well as others here today, you've actually made a decision in my mind. This weekend, Saturday, I'm going to buy a Glock. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Maybe I'll come with you.
Do it. Buy them all.
Good evening, Chair Staffstrom. I prepared a statement for Winfield, but he's not here today, or anymore. Ranking Member Kissel and the rest of the distinguished committee. My name is Matthew Strasser, and I am a father, a husband, the vice president, and legislative coordinator of the CCDL. Beyond that, I'm a Glock enthusiast, which brings me here today to oppose House Bill 5043 and 5436. I've submitted written testimony on these bills, but I'm going to use my time today to counter several falsehoods claimed today in an effort not to regurgitate previously claimed points made in today's hearing. First, I'd like to address a term I've heard many times today here in the committee and on social media in the last week by proponents of this Glock ban. Glock is not a do-it-yourself machine gun. Glock is a semi-automatic handgun with a safe action trigger system manufactured nearly a decade before the secondary market provided a switch for it. The issue before us is not a design flaw by Glock, but a product of criminals after 45 years of Glock being on the market. Convertible handguns do not exist unless you are willing to define all handguns as convertible. Professionally, I'm a toolmaker by trade. I can tell you that any semi-automatic handgun can be converted, sorry, I'm losing myself here, into full auto with a little reverse engineering and ill intent. We talked today about Glock making a fix to eliminate this possibility of the conversion, but you cannot eliminate that possibility. If anyone with a little manufacturing knowledge sat down with the intent to violate federal law, they can convert any handgun. They just proved that with the V model. Connecticut's permit holders do not violate these statutes, as they either care about remaining law-abiding or they care about the safety of their dog. The Glock switch, which is a conversion device never manufactured by Glock, is evidence of that. At some point, these high engineers we heard about earlier who designed the switch made these technologies information available to the public. We're only one step away from the next conversion device. All it's going to take is one person to do the research and post the results on Reddit. We heard a lot of opinions today, but I fear we're missing a lot of data. I've tried to track how many of these conversion devices were found in our state that come from individuals who legally own their host firearm. And it seems like we're not tracking that. However, when I see these switches in the news, it's someone not of legal age to own a handgun, or they're already prohibited as a felon. Just this morning, a guy was found guilty, and he's awaiting a sentence of possession of a switch and drugs and other things. But he was a felon with priors, yet he had this switch and a Glock handgun in his car. They are in illegal possession of the host firearm, and they bypass the safeguards established by this body. Targeting Glock pistols cannot lead to a reduction in the conversion device-related crime if the individuals committing the crimes are illegally obtaining the gun. There are no statistics available by the proponents of the bill that highlight the firearms found in crime scenes that come when the firearms come from out of state.
Great, thank you. Senator Kissel.
Thank you very much, Chairman Staffstrom. I just want to thank you for spending all day with us and testifying. And it's really helpful when you respond to things that came up during the hearing. And again, I want to commend everybody with the CCDL because having a group that comes forward to protect Second Amendment rights is very helpful in this legislature. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Representative Howard.
Thank you. Hi, Matt. So just want to clarify one thing that you said. So I think I heard you right, that you said that it's not just Glocks, right? Which is what you've heard me be sort of asking and
Yes.
wondering most of the day, that it wouldn't be any semi-automatic pistol, right? Because it would be much more difficult to do that. That's something that's not striker fired if it actually had a hammer, right? Or am I wrong?
I would argue that you were wrong, actually.
Okay, tell me why then.
So, like, probably the most commonly well-known hammer-fired handgun might be the 1911.
Yep, okay.
And if somebody sat down with ill intent and a little bit of time, it's happened before. It's not. You can absolutely convert 1911 a hammer-fired gun to be full auto.
Okay, it would look different than
They don't-
the switchblade.
You're not going to add a switch to it.
Right.
But with common household tools, you can absolutely make that conversion.
Right, because anytime you can bypass a trigger and firing pin reset, you could do that, right?
Right,
Either way.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
Yep. It would probably be a bit more difficult, but it certainly could be done.
So, I mean, these switches, if there wasn't a PDF on the internet coming from, the team you manufacturer that are bringing these things into the country, the people that are converting their Glocks right now with these switches wouldn't know how to do it either, right?
Right.
So now that these, this is proposed for these Glocks to go away, we're just a couple years out from the next, TMU order of, buy this and here's an instruction manual on how to make your 1911 full auto.
So for any person who has gone on YouTube in the last 10 years to figure out how to change their brakes or fix their dryer or reprogram their phone or their iPad or change the smoke detector in the house or any of the millions and millions of tasks that we can now figure out, for those listening, this is no different, right? So
No.
you heard earlier, Jake said that, they went to the V, 48 hours later somebody did it, posted a YouTube video, now everybody can do it. Fair?
Yes, and that
Right.
V was definitely designed to subvert this issue. It's not like you can't say that that's not what it was for. When you Google it, it's the first thing. Glock made this to get around their lawsuit from California, and it wasn't 2 days later that that switch was redesigned, and somebody had made that full auto.
Right.
This is going to be an issue that we're going to face, and we're chasing it the wrong way, because we're only a few years away from banning all of the handguns in the state of Connecticut. And I can say that from testifying on assault weapons bans for the last decade.
Yeah, that's what I've been concerned about all day. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate all you do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Further questions or comments? If not, thanks for being with us. Megan.
Thank you very much.
Call the